And welcome back to TypeScript Tuesdays, brought to you by Virtual Coffee. TypeScript Tuesdays is our, sort of weekly stream where we talk about TypeScript, adding TypeScript to the Virtual Coffee site, other TypeScript, type things. Virtual Coffee's mission is to be a welcoming tech community that allows room for growth and mentorship at all levels, and to create meaningful opportunities for learning, leadership, and contribution for everyone. To find our code of conduct, events, or learn more, you can check out our site at virtualcoffee.io. And I am Dan, and with me today is my wonderful TypeScript guide, Kirk. Kirk, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah,
Now that
nice.
my advent of code problem is over for the day, I can be at peace. My soul can find rest.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, that's I appreciate your soul being at rest. That's what we all want, right? Um, So yeah, we don't have a so we thought today. So Kirk mentioned Advent of Code, and we have been doing Advent of Code um, in Virtual Coffee. There's a decent handful of us that are kind of going through it, and so we thought we'd look at Advent of Code a little bit from a TypeScript slant. There's been six, right? 6 days. Yeah, today's the sixth.
Yeah.
So um, I'm going to put a link to Advent of Code in the chat there. Um, So what Advent of Code is, and you know what, I'm just going to share my screen right now, and we can kind of get going. Advent of Code is that's day 5. All right, Advent of Code is about sure. It's a really cool little project that it it has little just code challenges for the sort of Christmas Advent, and so there's 24 challenges throughout the month, and each one is a new thing. They're all sort of general, right? And so you can use any language. The advent of code submission system doesn't look at any code or anything like that, right? All you're doing is submitting the answer. So you could do these questions on paper if you wanted, right? You could do them with a graphing calculator, probably. I mean, I definitely you could. You could do them in lots of other things. And so in Virtual Coffee, we have uh, just kind of been we've been posting these to the GitHub discussions on Virtual Coffee. So I'm going to post a link to that in the chat as well. Um, and hey, Courtney says, fun times. I totally agree. It has been fun times. And it's been really fun kind of as a, it's satisfying to me just on a personal level to do them, but it's been extra fun to do them kind of together and see other people's solutions and, sort of complain about things together. And so we have a thread on each one of these, and we've had so we have JavaScript solutions, TypeScript solutions, Ruby, Python,
Python.
F sharp. Anything else that's anybody has
I
used that I
think
missed?
that's all we've seen so
Yeah,
far. Mind you,
but
that's
anyway,
been nice.
that's a
But it's been good.
pretty good collection of pretty good mixture, and yeah, it's been fun. So I've been doing TypeScript every day, and as part of sort of my plan to learn TypeScript better. And there hasn't been a lot of so like, if you aren't doing Advent of Code, a lot of the challenges are. So I could show you like one of their texts, but let me go back to one of the days. So like this is day 2, and there's just like they frame it around the elves are trying to do Christmas and all that stuff. So there's a whole big story. But basically, what happens is you get a string of inputs. This is how they've been so far, right? Is you get a text file with a string of inputs, or just one big string, and then you have to parse that string in some way, and then do operations on it somehow. So it's all like often a little bit different. The one yesterday was probably the most complicated input so far. So this has these like stacks. So these are like stacks, and for whatever reason, the person making this text file, the elves, I guess, made these stacks like this, which no person or program would ever do naturally, but that's okay. And so like that was a challenge, right? It's parsing these into like an actual usable thing, like an array, right? And then a list of instructions. So that was yesterday's, 2 days ago. What is this?
It
Day
feels
5.
like
So it was yesterday's. So it was Monday. we were just talking about, well, Kirk said this before we started that he was upset that today's was so much easier than yesterday's. And I don't know if you in the chat, like, sound off if you feel that's true. I thought that was true as well. And when we were talking before the stream, I said, "Oh, maybe it's just that weekends are supposed to be harder because people don't work on weekends." And then just now I realized that yesterday was Monday
Monday, which is
and not at
probably
all a
the
weekend.
worst day to
Right.
make a hard
Right,
one.
right, right. So that theory is out of the door. As usual, my brain doesn't know how time works, and yeah, let's move. We can move on from that. Um,
Okay.
so, Kirk, do you have any like I was doing these in TypeScript. I know you were kind of bopping around to different languages. Um, did you have any like ideas at a time or now of specific ones to look at with from a TypeScript perspective?
Um, yeah, like it could be worth looking at day five, just because we spent so much time on it. And it was this sort of like parsey problem where I
Yeah.
do think people talked about it's you do little tests. Console.log is your best friend. Um, but I do think like in these situations where you have a bunch of like data and you're doing a bunch of data manipulation, having the TypeScript system layered on top, just having those little type hints as you work through things, I think it's pretty helpful, or can be pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Um, I know it's like I'm doing it in F sharp, but like the languages are similar in the sense that like there's a lot of inference. You don't have to write out a bunch of types unless you need
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
So it's a similar pattern where I will do a line of code, check the type, that still looks good, do another line, and like I keep looking at the types to keep like, okay, am I still, this should be a set of strings, this should be an int, this should be, and I'm kind of working my way down. And whenever there's something that like doesn't look right, I'm like, okay, I've done something wrong, or I've made like a weird assumption. Um, so I think just in that sense, again, like the compiler, just by doing nothing, right, but just like pretty much writing regular JavaScript, the TypeScript
Yes.
compiler is just like in the background, just like making sure it all looks fine, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
exactly what I need from it.
Yeah, that's been my experience too, and these are like by because of the nature of what they are. Um, just like you said last times, if you just start writing and don't write any types, it like TypeScript knows what a string is, right? And it knows that split returns an array and all this stuff, um, and so I usually end up not needing types at all until I start like refactoring or putting something in a function that is reusable, things like that. Um, well, I don't know. We could dig into that, but
Do you
um,
mind if we take a look at day two, actually?
I do not mind even a little bit. Oh, no, that's virtual coffee. I think I have AOCs up here still. Oh, really quick, I wanted to shout out. Now I don't remember what it's called, but the AOC runner. So Arthur in Virtual Coffee shared this, and um, it's basically a package that lets you it like pulls down some templates and stuff and like has a little runtime and also it'll pull down the sample code for you or the not the sample code but the input code for you and create a little folder and lets you submit it from the command line as well. And it's been really cool. And it's JavaScript or TypeScript. And so if you're using JavaScript or TypeScript, I would um, say go ahead and or like I'd suggest doing this. There's a link for you in the little chatteroni there. It's really neat. So that's what I'm using as well. So you'll see some stuff that's like kind of based on that, and that's what that is. I think this is the right one. I didn't actually now
Yeah,
that I
no,
like
no. I think
yeah
it's this year I tried to be a little more.
this isn't the right one at all.
Oh,
Don't don't use that one.
no.
Sorry. I just like did a Google and like grabbed the first one. All right, let me do this. npm AOC runner. Right? So this, I was just looking at that. I'm like, well, that's not even JavaScript. Okay, here we
This is
go.
why everything in the JS ecosystem is named like Plixt and Blurple, just so
Right.
there isn't just like
Okay.
17
All right.
of the
The
same
second
name.
link I posted in the chat is the right one.
We
This
promise.
is it. Okay. So anyway, that thing before, don't know what it is.
Mhm.
None of my comments, all of my comments were about this, and so it's really neat.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's great.
yeah, and it'll like it kind of like scaffolds your days for you without having to do anything, without having to copy files and then like delete the last day's code and stuff like that. Um, and it runs when you save, and you can add little tests, and um, so this is day 2, and before we get, like, to looking at the solution, just as far as the AOC runner thing is you can add your little like, in the code descriptions, they give you, like, so, for example, if your input is this, then the expected
Mhm.
outcome is this, and so you can paste those into this runner, and it'll show you, in the console whether your tests are passing before you even submit it, which is cool. And so that's what if we're looking at this, that's what this is. You know what? This probably needs to be a little bigger, doesn't it? Okay, let me know in the chat if it should be bigger than this, and I would be happy to bump it up. But yeah, so
We should also say
day.
right now,
Oh,
so
go
if you're
ahead.
going to do AOC yourself, like this is going to be probably a little bit of a spoiler for day 2. So if you
Oh
don't
yeah,
want spoilers, you should,
spoilers for day
yeah,
2, which was
do that first, then come
uh,
back here.
Friday's one.
Yeah.
Now also not a weekend day.
Also not a
Uh,
weekend day, allegedly.
so
Yeah, day 2.
do
Day
you
2
want
is
to look
about rock, paper, scissors.
at? Oh yeah, I love rock paper scissors, just from a personal standpoint. Um,
I
we
never win, so
I win all the time, and we
it's good that you're humble about it.
I played ultimate frisbee in college and after college, and rock paper scissors was a really big part of that. Any pretty much any decision that needed to be made between teams, or like like who starts or whatever, or like lots of different things. Lots of rock paper scissors, just 1 2 3 shoot,
I
and it's done. And you know, so anyway, it got pretty serious. Those were usually um, you know like after the tournament, parties, stuff like that too. It became, got some
what
kind of
I'm
intense
hearing
sometimes.
is, we use rock, paper, scissors whenever we get to make a decision, like,
Yeah.
fixing the year's financial budget and hiring new coaches, rock, paper, scissors. Then we would have raucous rock, paper, scissors parties after
Yeah. I
games
mean, if we
where everybody
had
stand in a
things
circle.
if we had things like budgets and coaches, certainly we would have. Yes.
There is a rock, paper, scissors championship held in the UK. It was
Mhm.
done completely on a whim by like 5 people, and then like thousands of people showed up.
Yeah.
Countries send teams. It's one of those like, when humanity actually like tries, we can just be great.
I know.
That's yeah, I'm
Yeah.
into that
Rock, paper, scissors is a big part of that, of
for
humanity
sure.
being great.
So yeah, so this problem, I thought about too because so obviously everybody does AOC in their own way. Some people sort of like try and do it as if it was production code. Some people scratch stuff out. Some people like go for like performance. Some people go for like the code golf style, like minimalism. But 2 was interesting because I think almost everyone who did like a typed language ended up doing a little bit of like type driven development, a little bit of like domain modeling. Because rock paper scissors is a good example because like again, like the domain is like super obvious. Like there's 3 values, 3 very specific things. Um, and if you sort of like use the type system to say like, oh, these are the 3 things, the resulting code gets a little kind of more elegant, I don't know, or like approachable. Um, and I remember your solution had a little bit of like type driven stuff. Um, I think I
Yeah.
had some, David had a little bit more. So, like, I know we, and maybe it's on the TypeScript Tuesday stream is probably not useful to like watch F sharp code. But I said, like, oh, there's a rock, a paper, and a scissors, and like there's a bunch of functions to like go from them to other things. And I know like you took the inputs and you're directly like, well, these are the inputs for the opponent, these are the inputs for the player, and you just scratch that model out. So I don't know, maybe it's worth talking about like why you ended up doing that versus just because you didn't have to, right? Like in the JS version, you just don't do that and it's fine. what you did, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So let's look at. So I'm trying to just kind of remember what I did while we were doing this. So we had so the first part you are looking at a string that let me find the input. So looking at a string like this, it's probably honestly easier to look at it here. And in this example, this is like player one, and this is player two, and A, B, and C map to
Hmm.
rock, paper, and scissors, and Y, X, and Z also map to rock, paper, and scissors, right? And so I do that, we're going to be doing some comparisons or whatever, or some like identifications of like, okay, well, this letter is whatever one thing. And I still, we've talked about enums a few times on the stream,
Hmm.
and uh, I still don't have like I haven't used it. I haven't used enums at all in production code yet, and I still don't have like. And this actually illustrated from myself a hole in my understanding of how enums work. Because enums cross over. If you listeners weren't or viewers, what do you call people that are watching our stream? Streamies,
Voyeurs.
voyeurs. That's anyway. Um, as a quick, hey Meg's here. As a quick, I don't know if I can do this quickly. Kirk, could you quickly explain what enum is in like in
Yeah,
TypeScript?
sure. Enums are just so let's start with like enum is short for enumeration, which kind of gives you kind of like insight to how they work under the hood. Um, but an enum is just a way to attach a name to like a distinct collection of values. Lots of languages have enums. All the implementations are pretty much the same, where you get to like give a name to a group of values. Um, Usually the names are distinct, and almost always under the hood, enums map to a number. JavaScript enums are basically like that with a couple other caveats, but you can think of it as distinct, unique names underneath the hood. They are numbers, and generally they are used when you have a discrete set of values and you would prefer to like operate using those values versus something like a generic string or a generic number. Um, in the TypeScript world, enums are interesting because TypeScript has, these like string types and like union types. In many cases, they can play like very, very similar roles. The difference is uh, TypeScript types aren't real. Like at compile time, they all go away. Like they don't actually exist. Like you're not making anything. Enums are a real thing in JavaScript. They're like a real data structure that sort of operates as both like type and value. So that's something that people need to be aware of. If you make an enum, you're making a real JS thing, and that's gonna be in your JS output. Um, but yeah, they can be super handy, and I think he used them here to like pretty good effect. I'm
Yeah,
posting
and
more
so
info.
um, well, all right. A of all, Joe in the chat says enums are evil. So true or false?
Sure, I'm gonna go harsh and
Sure,
mellow.
they are. They are evil.
I'm not a I'm not a huge enum fan in TypeScript for reasons we'll get into, but
Yeah, they get confusing, honestly. And like I had started out when I started this, I had like an enum for the user's actions, like A and B and C,
mm-hmm.
and then I was comparing them, right? But that doesn't work. So if you do like, so for example, if you do I don't know, something else, right? I'm just gonna call this
Yep.
A, all right? So this so actions dot rock, you know, and actions dot a rock, like these don't this is like false. This is never going to be true.
Yep.
And even though, so I'm like, when I'm defining them, I'm like saying, okay, the value for this is one, the value for this is one, and if you're doing, so down here, you can see I have like a dict, which is like a dictionary. I mean, just
Hmm.
that's how I'm referring to it. It's just an object. But in here, if I say a is one and x is one, and then compare those two, the values are one. But the way the TypeScript is using enums, like these are not the same thing. And so
Right.
like it's a very, and this is why like I still haven't quite wrapped my head around how exactly to like use them, or when all the time to use them.
Right. And there's a
Um,
weird, the sort of
and
like the dance with enums is that the number under the hood, like many times in like TypeScript and JS, it's like you attach a name to a value. It's like, oh, well, like rock is one, the value is one, rock is just a name for the one. In enums,
right,
there's sort of both the value, right? Like the value is rock, rock is also one. And then for a actions, like the value is
right,
a rock just also happens to be one.
right,
Right. So like
right,
the like you said, like the normal structural equality we're used to in JS and TS was like, oh, if these two things have the same, like if the right hand of the equal sign is the same, they're the same. Doesn't apply to enums. So generally you're not comparing enums to enums, or if you're doing it, you're like pre-converting them back to their actual value and then doing the comparisons.
right.
Almost always when I see enum usage, it's like for switch cases or
Yeah,
for as like part of an API where you want to be like very distinct about the values that get passed in.
yeah,
Usually for like consistent like API usage, I think is like the best case for enums.
yeah.
Um, the flaw or the weakness I not only the weakness, but my thing of enums is just that so you have those like type player values at the top, and those are a union type in TypeScript, a
Okay.
union of like literal types. So player value can be A or B or C and nothing else.
Right.
Functionally, I feel like this does a very similar thing to an enum, but that union type is more flexible, right? If one of those things wasn't just a string, it was like a string and some additional information, then you just update the union, that'll be fine. Um, enums cannot do that. Like enums are all the same type of thing. It's just like a word and a number, sometimes like a word and like another word. You can't, they're all the same shape. So I find like if I'm doing some like real, like more intense domain modeling or stuff like that, like enums don't really work for me because I want to say like, oh, like this session is like empty or null, or like an active session of like a username and blah blah blah, or like and that's where like enums don't do
Yeah,
that slicing super well.
yeah.
Um,
And we got some
versus whenever
action
you're
in
using
the
an
in the
enum,
chat.
you're spending time to
So,
undo the enum.
so Joe said that was from some blog post that he got the enums are evil. Joe, if you could post the link to your article you got. Um, wait, oh, all right. I just did something weird in Restream. I didn't know that was going to happen. So this is a link that Meg. Can I just I just want to click on the link, but Restream is not letting me. I suppose I have it over in Twitch somewhere. Um, Meg posted a blog post about oh, this is enums inaccurate, and so this is this is Ruby, and so Meg posted this in the chat, and thank you, Meg. It's like, and like, well, I'd encourage anybody to read this if they're interested. It's like I have seen differences, and I think this came up in the chat about the way that different type languages
Mm-hmm.
handle enums. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so they're like, I obviously don't want to dive too deep into looking at the Ruby enum way to do things, but it's I don't know. Like I said, I still don't know exactly when. I dove into this thinking, okay, I'm going to use enums for everything, and then I mean, I wish now I have started committing more often, so I could see my steps. I hadn't done that yet in this, so I don't think I have the commit that had like a bunch of enums and it wasn't working. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like
Um,
let's look at like how I'm using it. So here I'm using it for like this lookup thing, right? And so this is well, you can see we're like going to loop through that
mhm.
string, and here is the so right here is the input, right? And so this is like for in part one, it's like, okay, this is player one and this is player two, and you're calculating basically the result and also the score of the result. Um, and so that's where I actually wanted the value as well. But basically, what I ended up doing was saying, okay, so like, let's see how I did this. Let's walk through this real quick. All right, so um, where's part one? Part one is so we run through the input and player a value is like the string A, B, whatever, C. And then we are doing okay. And then like at this point we're getting the like enum, so
Hmm.
action dick, and so this thing is returning the enum, rock or enum, whatever. What do you call this? Enum value? Enum
Yeah, you can call it value.
property?
I
I
would
don't
say value.
know. Cool. And so round score is sorry here, and this is like okay, do the round result. Okay, so round result is here. So this is like okay, this is actually, I realized this like later that day. The fact that I named this actions and not action is like
Yes.
a good illustration of like my mental model being wrong for enums for like enums, right? And so like this is the way, and I think but this is the way that it really should just this should just be action because your action isn't like your action is rock, right? Your action is paper. And when you're
Hmm.
referring to these enum things, it's like you're really referring usually to one of the
Yeah.
values and not like the collection of possible values. So, and this is just like a pretty dumb switch, not dumb like you know bad, but like dumb like not thinking a lot switch, But it's like okay, if like we're switching on this, and so okay, so if this is like rock, then we know how to do things. If it's paper, then we know how to do things. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. I mean, the key thing for me here with like the union of the literals or the enum is the main thing. I think is like it's a big readability boost. You know, actions.rock is much easier to like grok than I think, like even if it was just the string rock, which would have worked, but it's just like I don't know,
Yeah,
seeing it as like a qualified name and
yeah,
you can see like, oh, it's part of like this group of things
right.
feels a lot better. Um, and I do think there's something here that's like you don't get in untyped languages, which is where you can like lift information like knowledge into the type system instead of it just like living in functions.
Mm,
So it's like when you read the function, oh right, the options are like rock or paper or scissors, but I don't get that until I get to it. Whereas here, oh, like conveniently at the top of the file, this
right,
just like tells me what's going on here. Like, oh,
right.
these are the player values, these are the opponent values, these are the actions. Like I'm reading that before I even get to like the manipulation code, but I
Yeah,
already know the data structures involved. So
yeah,
that for me, I think can also be like a pretty handy thing. And we've noticed that
yeah,
with like working with TypeScript on the VCIO code base, right? It's like, what actually goes in here, right?
yeah.
And then we think about it, and then like we
Right,
look that
right.
up, and then it's just at the top of the file, and you're like, what's this again? Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah,
right there, and then like that's really useful information. It's not like it wasn't there before, but it was like buried in functions or like
right.
buried in like JSON, and now
In
it's like,
other or in
oh
other
yeah,
files or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Totally. Well, and the other like, and so the other piece of this for me for this specifically is that these values are actually being used to one, two, and three. So they assigned like a numerical
hmm
value to the, which also, by the way, I meant to call this out in one of our discussions, but forgot. But I'm kind of insulted that they're like assigning like they're basically saying scissors is worth more than paper and paper is worth more than rock, and if this is true, this changes everything about rock paper scissors, right? Like if your goal is to win but also have the best score at the end of the round, then like you're gonna have to throw scissors more often. But then that you know what I mean? It's like changes the whole strategy of everything.
Yeah,
So
now there's like a
I
weird
just like,
complexity constraint, right? Like
yeah,
scissors is worth more points, but if everyone is
right,
throwing scissors, then
right,
maybe it becomes optimal. I know, I know.
right, all right. Well, yeah, and so that's but
This stream
that
is
is that aside,
exclusively
that
rock, paper,
was
scissor commentary. This is not a TypeScript stream at all.
yeah. We
We
got to
are
get
here to
Jake in
talk
here.
about rock, paper,
Right?
scissors.
So anyway, anyway, so like you can write an enum that doesn't. You don't even have to specify
Yeah.
uh, actually to you don't have to specify the value, right?
Hmm.
And I think in those cases you
It'll,
don't
yeah, do a
you don't
default.
it will, but you also don't need to care about what the values are. Like in
True.
this case, I care that it's a rock, a paper, or scissors, but I don't need the value. But since we're using this like for arithmetic after the fact as well,
Yeah.
um, it felt like felt one of those things like that's kind of like it felt clever, but also is this a good idea? Like I had that running through my head because
Yeah.
this
I
thing
mean,
is like doing double duty basically.
it also, when you look at the shape, you're like, could this have just been an object? Or like, could this have just been a record type of thing? It's like, oh, well, I've got a name and I've got a value. You're like, oh, like, is
Yeah,
this,
I mean,
do I need
yeah,
like this new?
it's well. So let's cut this apart, right? So like, um, what's the best way to do this? Um, which is all right. I'm going to copy the old one into a new file just so we can compare it after. But if we're going to use not enums for this, right? This would be like, what do we need? We need a action is right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Hey, look at that. I did note in the comments that Copilot like knows about rock paper scissors. It didn't give me any
I'm
answers
sure.
for this game, but like as soon as you start typing rock, it just like tickled me every time that it was like, "Yep, paper and scissors. That's next,"
I can
which
only
I appreciate it.
imagine the amount of data sets the Copilot has been fed that it's just like, here's rock, paper, scissors.
Right. Okay, and so this would be like action scores. Um, yep,
Yeah. And it's going to tell you, like, hey, you
Copilot
can
knows what's
just,
up. Yep,
it's just a record.
2 and 3, and this is it, right? And so
Hmm.
down below, so if now we're getting if this is getting an action that
An
is
action.
a
Yep.
string, right?
Yep.
Um,
So if you change that to action, then,
yeah, right. So if this is
when you do your switch.
action and this is action, and so now it's like okay, well, and like for if you aren't an advent of code, the arithmetic for this was you like if you get a tie, it's 3 points, and if you win, it's six, and if you lose, it's zero, plus
Yeah.
the like arbitrary value that they assigned to the things, right? So this function is only calculating the score of the
Hmm.
round of the like result of the round, right? So now this needs to not be this, but a string, right? This is
Yeah.
rock, and um, so it changes all of that stuff, right? So we could
Yeah.
probably
Yeah. We would
do this a
just
little
go through
faster.
and they all just change to their.
Paper and um, well, I guess I can just do this.
Nice.
Um,
That just works.
and so this will work, right?
Yeah.
It probably won't. Like, I think honestly, I still would be tempted to do like if I was doing this even in a JavaScript and not TypeScript,
Hmm.
I would be tempted to do like something like this. Is rock, so that I could use variables in here. I'm not sure why or if that's good. I mean, one of the reasons would be like file size optimization to not have string. Strings are harder to gzip and stuff. But oh, god,
Well, okay. So this is one of the spaces where
that was
TypeScript is in fact different from other typed languages. And if you look at my solution in F sharp, I have a
mhm,
similar like I call them clay, like rock, paper, scissors.
yeah,
There, I can make these as qualified values. Like basically, they look like the name const rock paper scissors, and they are distinct from the string rock paper scissors. So it's like a fully, I don't know. It's somewhere. It's like the somewhere between the enum and these like literal types. It's like, oh, what is a play? It's like the word rock or paper or scissors. Those aren't strings; they're just like values. And you can make those like, and um, so it would look just like that type action except without like the quotes. Um, but yeah, like it's I don't know, maybe we can watch it at some point. But like
Like,
in TypeScript, it's like these are just you could also yeah you could do that, and that would probably be fine.
what it,
Or it doesn't like that,
no.
right?
Oh,
Because
so
it's like
so
a
so this would be
value, and like if you do type of, then it's just going to become a string again. So you're sort of like right back to
what's
where
it?
right. It's just going to become the strings again.
No, I think it does it with strings. I think it is okay.
Right, but I feel like you were trying to get a way to not have to use the strings in like your match and your switch statements.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not right. So this is like this is now using the
oh, is it working?
variables.
Is it better? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
cool, nice.
And
Okay, yeah,
so
no, yeah, that should work because it's like, oh yeah,
we need
this is
to.
the
I
same
mean,
value as the type, and that's okay.
yeah, we need to fix
Um,
how the thing is reading them in. But like the well, so the action dict would need to change. So this is not this, but this is just this, right?
yep.
And let me see here. Round score is all right. So this is action and action. And what's up here? Type.
Right. We've lost that sort of like instant conversion from action to number,
Wait,
right? Because
why am
these
I
are no
returning a
longer
string?
enums.
Player B.
So we'd have to use the record that you made.
Oh no, this just needs to be. Yeah, this needs to be right. Something like that. Is that what I called it? No, score action score. Sorry,
Action
called it action
scores.
score. So now we're in pretty good shape.
And this may be like the biggest takeaway
And this is like
um, about like enums in like JS and TS. You
here you
never
go.
need an enum. Um, or
This
like
is where we
everything
lose
an
it.
enum does. Oh, it's confused.
This is where we lose it. So this this thing. I suppose we could it's constant.
Boom.
But like now it's in good shape, right? Part two is messed up because it was using some of that stuff too. But
But yeah, so that's my big thing. Like you never need enums are a convenient syntax or a convenient interface for like making a quick set of like distinct values, wrapping them in a namespace, and if you need it, like getting like attaching, associating them with like a number under the hood. And there's lots of times where that behavior is like super useful, you know, where it's like, oh, I have some configuration details that are actually numbers. I don't want people to remember numbers are pass in numbers. They have like meaningful names. I put the meaningful names. They use the enum. Everything's fine, right?
yeah,
Like my code works, and like there's a the space of what they do is useful and relevant and frequent. Just in the theme of like less magic numbers, less magic strings, qualified names, but there's nothing enums are doing that you couldn't do with just like a union type and a
yeah.
subject.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Yeah, like and the page on enums. What do you think it is? Reference enums has it shows you how, like, where is it? Yeah, so it shows you like how you could actually write the function that does the same thing, you know. So that's
Yeah.
it, it's an interesting thing to do, to like look at. Um, so you certainly always could do that, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
So yeah,
And you know,
I
like
mean,
the diff on this now is uh, AOC. Um, like we've done a lot more though. We've written a lot more code, you know, um, to do this, and so I really feel like there's some value in certain cases, but there's certainly some stuff that you just like, I don't know. I
yeah,
still
there's
just
no
need to get
like,
it. I like need to get it into my brain how it works so that I can, you know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, I know if I need a list or whatever, I can do use an array, you know? Like it's
yeah.
like that kind of like just get it into my headspace thing. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, like, there's no like bad tools. There's just like things I don't use all the time, and the answer is like, like there's in the whole ecosystem of like JavaScript features, some things I just use more often than not. Right? They're just like more relevant more of the time, or the right thing to use more of the time. Enums are sometimes enums are great. I actually think this was a great time to use enums, right? Because it did like pack a bunch of functionality that was useful, especially since like you did want the fact that they were numbers like behind the scenes.
Right.
Um, if you didn't want the numbers, then yeah, probably like could have just used the literal, would have been mostly the same. Um, I think the only thing to remember of enums is just that yeah, enums are both JavaScript and TypeScript. Like TypeScript is using the enum type to do its TypeScript things, but it is a real JavaScript value. So sometimes that's an advantage, right? Like if you're using enums for like you can use them for logic, and that logic will persist in your like
Right.
actual code.
Right.
um,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
that
exactly.
can be
Because
relevant.
like type narrowing and all of that stuff is actual code, and it's not TypeScript at all, right? I mean, TypeScript
Hmm.
relies on it, but it's doing comparisons in the actual code. And so yeah, so like I don't know if I explained this well, but like the thing that I tried first was player one actions
Hmm.
and you know player two actions, right? Something like this, and but then you
You can't compare player one to
can't
player
compare
two.
them, right? Yeah, yeah.
No.
And so rock, it doesn't equal their, like this is the exact alert I saw. I mean, this was inside a
But
function,
you
but it said
you know
this will
what I've
always be false because they have no overlap, and I'm like, but wait, I said it's one and one,
I have a
um,
question about this. I would like to see us in
it,
TypeScript Playground. I'm wondering if like this is TypeScript saying this, right? Like TypeScript is going, you have made two enums, and in TypeScript's brain, like it's like this is a set of values and this is a set of values, and I have no reason to think that they have any association, right? Like TypeScript, it's TypeScript thinks like this is the equivalent of like comparing like ints and strings. They're different sets of
mhm,
values.
right.
I don't know if JavaScript would think this way, and I'd be interested to see like if you like stuck this in like TS Playground and just like ran it, if it would just still actually output a value.
So what are we doing? Console log or something
Yeah,
like that?
which is the thing I use TS Playground for a lot. Yeah, just to like see the difference between if see like
Oh, shnikes.
JavaScript gets it. TypeScript's the one who's like, no, you have made two logical distinct types, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a safety feature, right? Like so you never quote unquote like confuse this one and this one, pass in enum two when you meant enum one. So like TypeScript treats them as I the internals are irrelevant to me. These are different names. It doesn't matter that they have the same shape under the hood. But that's very different from like the way TypeScript treats almost everything else. TypeScript's what we call like a structurally typed language. If two things have the same shape, and they have the same value most of the time. But enums break that rule, which is like another reason why many people like I'm iffy about enums in TypeScript, because this is one of the ways where they don't act like everything else in TypeScript. If we had done these as literal types and objects, TypeScript would have been like, yeah, they're the same, but doesn't work with enums. JavaScript, however, is like, yeah, no, these are totally fine, right? Because like JavaScript doesn't, it's just two objects. Yeah. And they're both one. Also,
Crazy.
just in general, I shout out to TS Playground. I love the thing I do often sometimes is like I'll throw some TypeScript stuff in there and I'll look at the output just to kind of see like what it thinks is happening. And that can be pretty, that's cool. Or I think it's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something to note, right? Like who's TypeScript's not complaining because it's illogical for TypeScript's type
Yeah.
system, but
So
it
this is
is
like, yeah,
because
so this is like the TypeScript. I mean, this is the same as like, yeah, that's
like if you made
trying to
these
think of another
objects,
example that's
right,
like,
then this would just be fine. If you change these enums to just be like two regular objects.
right, does this have, oh yeah, it does.
But yeah, this is like one of those situations where like TypeScript is trying to preserve type safety.
Right.
And it just enums are not, they don't get that same shape inspection. And I suppose under the hood, enums are a little bit more complex than like regular objects. So maybe that's for, like the safe thing to do is not try to do that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm trying to, so this works fine. But
TypeScript can like
the
peek at this and be
type,
like, yeah,
the type of player one dot or player one actions dot rock or whatever is number.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. This is like, yeah, enums like make my brain go in weird circles. So yeah, and so like the type of this.
So yeah, I would say like, generally the pattern for if you're going to use an enum, it's like it should only ever be compared to like, it's like an internal comparison. Like you compare the values within an enum, but you don't compare the values to other enums.
Right.
Although if you have like integers, you need to like, they'll happily map to integers, but like just not other enums.
Yes.
Which is probably not intuitive, or I don't think like you discovered like, oh yeah, they should work this way because everything else in TypeScript works this way, and it's like this doesn't work this way, which is strange.
I like it.
Although in that way, I guess they behave more like in other typed languages. Like if you made a union type, this is sort of what would happen. Like in something like Elm or something, or F sharp, if you said, hey, this type is rock, paper, scissors, and you said, hey, this other type is rock, paper, scissors, it would either yell at you like, these things have the same value, but like you also wouldn't know that they're the same out the box.
Yeah. So,
I'm just watching you write the word rock several times.
Wait, no, that's not right. This is like I'm getting my syntax mixed up. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
no, go for it.
R2 is,
And while you're doing this, for folks watching who are like, oh, I'm trying to get more into TypeScript, and like it's a little confusing, I highly recommend like using something like TypeScript Playground and just scratching stuff out.
yeah.
Just poking around with it, and I just go in there and I change values and I see like what it complains about, what it thinks is fine, or like what it's thinking. It's really convenient. You can also set up the configuration for this to output to different um, JS versions, uh, which even without the TypeScript part is like fun for me to see like what does this actually become under the hood, and like what is this replacing. That's pretty fun. What did you just try to do? Type rock value, player actions at rock, rock twos, player actions at rock, const one.
Is there
What are you doing?
in the playground, is there a way to do a format, like auto format?
Yes.
How do you do it?
Try right click,
That, oh, oh, yeah.
format
Let me see.
document,
Shift something F. What is that? Alt or
uh,
Control?
shift option.
I mean, I know I could have just clicked on it, but okay. Thank you. This is interesting.
Yeah, you tried really hard to throw it off. So what are we doing here? So player one actions that so like rock value and rock two value are still different. Um, so the rock in one and the rock in two are still different. They're
But
still different.
it's letting me do this.
Right. They both, like that's fine, but like
I mean, the type of one is not I mean, according to their weirdo system, not the same as the type of this enum thing, right? That one I complained about.
it's like it's a different rock. They're not the
but
same
but like here, I'm just saying
rock,
one, and
man.
one is this isn't a rock at all. This is just a number.
They're not. You're wrong. They're just. I actually, yeah, I can see what you were going for here, and I'll be honest. If you asked me, like, will this work? Like 5 minutes ago, I was like, I don't know. Um, but
Here it's
TypeScript
here.
seems really, really intent on not letting you mix enums, and I'm sure like the the TypeScript czars who implemented this were like, no, this is important, or like things break. There's I'll see if I can find the article. There's like a the first time we encountered enums, I like read up a lot on it because you're like, hey, is this good? And I was like, I don't know. And I done a lot of like, are enums in TS? Like, how do we feel about this? And they talked about like a bunch of edge cases. Like we've been using like a very straightforward version of it where like everything's a string and everything's a number. But apparently like you can do string and string, you can do number and number, you can like mix and match, which is something I have no idea why anyone would want unless to
All
punish
right.
themselves.
Yes, I have a complaint.
What's up?
Well, like these shouldn't both like these either should be both illegal or both legal. So
Wait, rock player two's rock is boo. Is player one's rock still one?
yeah,
Yeah.
but like
Well then
no, I'm saying this is the right thing. This is this.
so I don't get, isn't it doing what it's supposed to do?
No. Well, this I don't think this is doing what it's supposed to do, really. This is the problem. Is like right here, I'm not saying the value of this is this. I'm saying it's the number one. So like if I go up here, wait, well, let me try this. All right, now I'm totally confused. I don't know what's happening.
Right. Okay, so let's look at on line 16. What you've basically done is you've made a record. The key is 7 and the value is 1, right? And that's
What?
isn't that like
No,
fine?
the key is rock.
I mean, that's a different record now. Oh, okay,
Um,
let's
I'm saying
go back to
forget
how
about
it
this.
was and let's look at the type of 1.
Uh, uh, the type of what? Oh, the type of one.
Oh wait, yeah, no, no. Actually, never mind. Forget what I said. You're totally right. rock's a rock value.
Yeah.
Um,
And rock value is this, which is this. Why is it letting me do this?
Oh, wait, you're an S. Do you need to set the values? You don't need to set the values. If you don't set the values, it will auto increment starting from
Yeah,
0.
you don't need to set the values unless you care about them. So you missed us talking about advent of code, which, by the way, why aren't you not participating? Get in there. We're in the code challenges room of virtual coffee. So well, whatever. Aaron, you can watch the you can rewatch the beginning of the stream. Basically, like, we had this enum that we're eventually using the values for something else as well, right? But right now we're just trying to, like, Kirk and I have been deep diving into just enum in the playground and figuring out how it works. Because I brought up the point that you can't compare two different values, even if you think the value is the same, which makes sense to me. Like, that makes sense. Like, the fact that you can't compare player one dot rock to player two dot rock, like, that is,
Well,
like,
okay.
that makes sense to me,
What
in
is the
TypeScript.
error on line 21? What's
On
it?
21, it's saying boo is not assignable to type player two actions dot rock.
Oh, wait, what was the second thing below that? I feel like there was a second.
This thing?
No, sorry. On the same error, there was like a
Oh,
second error, or is that just a normal?
it's just
The
the
expected
expected
type
type
comes from
comes from.
property rock. Okay, no, so it's just giving more context. That's interesting. I feel like I didn't say that before. That might be new. Could you set it to 7 if the enum was never set to something? That's. I don't know if that's the issue.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know
I'm
why
very
this is
curious.
not. I don't know why this is not causing problems with TypeScript. Why is
Right?
TypeScript letting me do this? Why? All right, let's try this. So I'm going to say this is player one actions dot rock. It's the one I made 7. Okay.
Boom.
This is wrong. TypeScript is broken.
Let's be clear. This is enums or JavaScript. TypeScript's just trying its best.
Enums are not JavaScript.
Enums or JavaScript.
Enums compile to JavaScript. There's no enum in JavaScript.
There's enums in JavaScript.
Well, it's not this. This is the compiled JavaScript for this. There's no enums here. It's a weird function and some nonsense.
If it's a thing that compiles into values, it's JS.
No, it's TS.
It's TSJS. JTS. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, enums are like a weird thing in between, and they are like moments like this. It just doesn't work the way I think. And like TypeScript has those moments where like, why did it do that? But then after, it's like, okay, like there's a method. And I don't know what the method behind this. So like, ultimately, like, enums are not immutable. You can just change the value of the underlying pattern, but only numbers and not strings.
Right.
All right. So, okay, I have a question. Can you change rock to, on line 29, can you change that to a number like rock 7? It says no. So can you assign it to anything?
Well, I think I can assign it to, this works. This is the behavior that I would expect, is that you need
Right.
to say it's this. If I'm saying this is this, then it needs to be this. You know what I mean?
Can it be
All
some
right,
other
wait, let me try
string?
this. Wait, let
Tell me
rock to
thinking.
value. All right, wait, let me try this. If it is, all right, wait, let me change this. All right, I don't want to lose this, so I'm gonna start a new one. All right, we know that's not gonna work. That's fine. I don't know why I need to, but that's fine. So action is I say player one action. Right? And so this is action. This is action. Player two actions, right? And I'm saying action. All right, so that works. That's what I expect. This. Okay, I'm going back. I'm sorry, Ewan. I'm going back to having values in here, right? So if this, it's still letting me do it.
Can you change line 39 to a string?
Line 39 to a string. Okay, so our possible values are boo, 2, and 3. If I say boo, nope, doesn't let me
Doesn't
do it.
like it.
If I say like some other string,
No.
definitely doesn't like it.
If you say
If I say
two,
a string 2,
yeah, it
doesn't like
shouldn't
it.
like
If I
that.
say the number 2, it does it. But if I say this number, it also is fine with it.
Yeah. So
This is a bug. This is clearly a bug in TypeScript. There's no logic behind this. Right? I mean, like, is there any, like, how could this be?
you should write a sternly worded email to.
TypeScript has a GitHub repository. You could make pull
They
requests
do.
to TypeScript.
I
I
mean, I
should see
wonder
if
if this isn't already an issue.
it
It
might be. Yeah.
probably is.
Uh, what do you think? 5,000 plus.
Oh yeah.
Enum. What do we call it? What do we say here?
Well,
Just
let's see how many there are for just
315.
preserve const enums equals true. That might be relevant to our interests.
Hmm.
Who uses enums in TypeScript though? Dan Ott.
You're in. This isn't like it's in the handbook. It's part of TypeScript. So this is TypeScript Tuesdays. We are discussing it. Joe said earlier that enums are evil, according to some blog post, and so I don't know. I mean, like obviously, a lot of this is just telling me don't use enums, but there, but still, index. Yeah, I don't know. It's
I
probably
mean,
in
I
here.
would
I mean, I'm
say,
not gonna sit here and look through every issue while we're on
yeah.
on a stream, but
Um,
uh, uh
and there might be
no.
some. There may be some compiler config that like we're missing. I think there might be some toggles for enums.
Shh, don't try to make this right, Kirk. This is just a bug.
It's okay. There's what does preserve const enum do?
What? What? Where?
There's a compiler option called preserve const enum, but I can't remember
Is that in here, do you think? Oh, yeah.
what it does.
Let's see. Do not erase const enum declarations in generated code. Const enums provide a way to reduce the overall memory footprint of your application. With this TypeScript.
I
Oh,
don't think so.
const enum? What the hell is const enum?
Uh-oh.
Yearn is asking, were the enums const or not? And what I'm asking is, what does that even mean? Oh, Joe found the link. All right, cool. So there's a YouTube video you can watch after this to learn about how evil enums are. Excuse me. Courtney says we use them, but based on today, I think we use them wrong. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're
think
used more
if
like a
you
constant.
put
Okay, so like let's see
const
what
enum, a bunch
const.
of the things you did are gonna break.
All right, const is one of those. I'm gonna delete these just to get them out of my face. Const
So
enum.
for player, if you put it on player one actions and player two actions,
Oops.
I think it's gonna yell at some of those assignments, maybe. Maybe.
Nah,
And if it doesn't yell, I
doesn't
don't
yell.
know.
Does it let us do this though?
It's never gonna let us do that.
That's fine. I mean, like this is how I would imagine that it worked, right? Is that it didn't let you do this. but I would also imagine it didn't let you do this. And I would definitely imagine it didn't let you do this. Like, this is just wrong.
The takeaway I'm having here is if you're gonna use enums, don't mutate them.
I'm not mutating
Don't
the
compare
enum.
them to other enums.
I'm not. I'm assigning a value and saying, "Hey, man, this is this," and it's not yelling at me. It's saying that's fine. I'm not even doing anything weird.
I don't know
You
what to
know?
tell you. I don't use enums. I just use unions.
Can it be as const? I mean, like const enum as const, like that. Oh, can I find name as? Yeah, all right. I don't know. What does that even? Why am I getting a? I don't think you can do that. I think that's why it's const enum because the like the syntax of. I think this is how you do that with enums. Urine is asking if you can do as const. If you're going to do, all right, Joe says, if you're going to do an enum, forget about it. Just do const object equals whatever as const instead. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like that's, I guess, sort of the solution is don't do that, but you lose some of the other stuff. Then you have to do like key of type of stuff to get the types right, you know? Because we showed that before, like when we switched that, is it still up? When we switched, yeah, so this was how I had it before. Well, this is plus. All right, I don't even remember what this is, but this is what we ended up with, like changing it back, right? Is like
Mm-hmm.
this sort of setup, and um, you have to do a lot of extra stuff. I don't
Well,
know,
if you don't want to just use the strings themselves in
which I
the
don't.
in the
Nobody
function.
does. Using strings everywhere is, is not great.
Yeah, but like I mean, technically we've put the strings in consts, but they're still strings. TypeScript's going to make sure the strings are the right strings either way. It looks nicer if we use the const strings versus the strings. But the strings are strings. Like
Mm,
const rock
yeah, but
is
like
string.
I could this. All right, wait. I'm not getting any errors. I could change this to whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it breaks. Okay, wait. What was I saying? There's something about that. I don't think it's set up quite right. Oh, it's because of this. Like, right. So I have to. Doesn't matter. Uh, but you know what I mean? Like that. That's like one of the values, right? So what if we made a German edition for urine, where well, I don't know what any of the German words for any of these are, but so there's that. All right, wait. We got some questions here. So urine saying Escont usually works with objects, and it should yell right.
It should
Uh,
do a lot of things.
Instead of using an enum, use this is yeah. Urine saying the same thing as Joe. That yell doing an array as const with type. So
I think they're
Urine's
just
playing yours
generally.
Urine's playing catch up with the beginning of the stream, but like uh like all right, don't use enums because they're broken. There's my answer. They're not trustworthy.
I don't know
I
if
mean,
I'm on the.
forget about the like tactical value of it or not. Like this is clearly it doesn't work like it's supposed to.
I don't know if I'm on the enum defense train. I feel like this is not where I want it to be. But yeah, I personally, I very, I don't really use enums because all the stuff they're doing, I can just do it with something else. And those other things work the way I know they will work, which is
I
important.
agree. I mean, I hear you and I agree, but just like I don't know, if you have a tool available, I want to know how it works.
Yeah, no,
Oh
and
yeah, I meant to talk about that. So Joe is asking if we can hear about satisfies with TypeScript 4.9, and I totally forgot that that was what I meant to talk about today, or like
oh
meant
yeah,
to have
yeah,
us talk
totally.
about.
We
We've
can talk
out of time
satisfies.
today, but like,
Yeah,
but like, I think that would be a good concept because I didn't super get it. I mean, I kind of understood the examples, but I would love to hear. So plan on that for next week, Joe and
Absolutely.
everybody else and Kirk. But we could talk about just I mean quickly. TypeScript released a new version of TypeScript, uh, which like is also a thing that I'm still getting used to. That, like the language that I'm writing in, has like these releases where they do release notes and stuff that are, it's cool. It's good. But uh, one of the things was a new feature called satisfied, new keyword in TypeScript. So
Yeah,
satisfies. So
we
we can
can.
talk about that next time.
I'm happy to do that. Maybe even next time we can do like a full, like we can talk about, what's in the new release, how relevant it is for people. There's some other stuff there. I am
Yeah.
excited for Satisfies. It'll make a lot of, well, maybe not. It'll definitely make some logic uh, easier. But there's
Yeah.
also some things in the new release that I'm super excited for. One of the things is just the compiler should feel way faster on large code bases, which I'm very excited for, and a bunch of other
Hey,
cool
what?
stuff.
What was the last thing you said?
The compiler is going to be a lot faster.
Oh, nice.
They've changed the way basically like TypeScript
Yeah.
parses parses your code. The compiler parses your code in a way that should be a lot more performant. So I'm really excited for that. You
Nice.
don't notice if the code base is relatively small, but I've
Yeah.
worked with a large TS code base. You could feel the sluggishness, especially if you had it on like TS Watch or something like that. Like it would
Yeah.
groan.
Nice. Cool. Well,
So
then we have an agenda for next week. The also like this enums discussion was actually really good. I was one of the other advent of code problems. I was trying to get into string, like what are they called? String template literals or
literals,
string? What is it called in TypeScript? Sorry, I know I'm bopping all over the place.
template literal types.
Yeah, was that what it was?
Hmm.
And try to figure out how to like if I could use that, because all this advent of code stuff is all string, you know, dealing with strings and things like that. So we can talk about that next time too if we run out of or if we get through the 4.9 stuff. So
Okay.
um
Last thing I'm going to say, I was
mhm.
looking at what's set to happen for TypeScript 5.0, and the second line says unify all enums as unions.
What?
So
Where do you find that?
I'll post a link. Uh, like you said, all the repo's right there. Because yeah, when
Oh, I can
4.9 came
push this
out,
button there.
I had
Aha,
some.
there's the link. Restream's so weird sometimes.
Yes.
Uh let me it won't let me copy it from the thing. Well, it's a good thing I have Twitch open in a different window. Oh yeah, and speaking of Twitch and whatever, um, we are trying out streaming on YouTube and Twitter, and apparently it was working. So, um, I don't know. Probably everybody that's watching is on Twitch still because I didn't really announce it or anything like that. But well, here's the TypeScript 5.0 iteration plan. But regardless, kind of cool. So,
Kind of cool. I'm excited.
yeah.
Okay. I think
Well, this is a whole big
yeah,
thing, so we can figure this out. This probably just says, "Hey, everybody's right, and enums are bad, and don't use them." But we'll figure it out.
I'm
We'll
sure
we'll
this
have
does.
we'll read those release notes and then get back to everybody.
Yeah. Also,
Okay. Go ahead, Kirk.
oh, the last thing I'm going to say about it, the first sentence of that proposal starts with is that there are two very distinct types of enums, um, numeric enums and literal enums. It's it's this was a great this was a great
All right,
proposal.
my brain just started like smoking reading that first paragraph. So I think that like probably illustrates some of the problems with enums and like
Yeah.
using them. So okay, cool. Well, never again will I touch enums. And that's the moral of the story for everybody. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts or final you know whatever's.
Advent of code is cool. Don't
Yeah.
stress out over it. Enums, take them or leave them.
Yes. Cool. Well, and we all learned a valuable lesson. Yes. All right. Well, then I think that'll wrap us up for today. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you are a Virtual Coffee member, feel free to hit us up in Slack. And the Advent of Code stuff is happening in the Code Challenges room. So that's a cool place. If you are watching this and you're not a Virtual Coffee member, feel free to check out our site, virtualcoffee.io. And I'll put a link into the join link. So yeah, there's a place where you can join and join us in Slack and keep talking about how enums are awesome and or bad. So yeah, I guess that's it. And we will catch all of you next time. Thank you, everybody. Is it playing the music? Yeah. I can't hear it. I gotta fix that. I forgot that I didn't fix that. All right. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.